You may want to show a parts list of the components needed for a particular operation, in which case a view such as this can be useful. In this video I'm going to run through the tools used to create this view. First thing I'm going to need to do is select the components that I want to show in this view. So using the selector and going onto the CAD tree, I'm going to hold down my control key and select the components that I want. With the object selected, we can have a look at positioning these components using the layout tool, which is found on the transform tab of your property bar and is this button here. When I click on there, it will display the layout options. Creating a layout will arrange components quickly for me. I can choose the formation, what to include, and what order to put the items in. It often looks nice to order by volume, which is what I'll do. When I click Create Layout, the components will be arranged and I can adjust the number of columns and the spacing. Once I'm happy with the view, I tick the green tick on the property bar to accept the positions. So now we have our parts arranged nicely. I'm going to save this as a new step and then take a look at giving the components some item numbers. So I click Create Step, click Create, and the positions will now be saved. So if I switch between the start step and my new step 1, you can see it animates nicely. One way of showing the viewer the item numbers of these components would be to simply throw on some sort of text 2D and manually type the number in. But that's not ideal. Not only is it quite time consuming, I'd have to remember the item numbers for each component in case it's used in any other views, and it wouldn't help me at all if I start using a parts list. So I'm going to get rid of that. Instead, what I'll do is set a property of the CAD objects themselves, which is its item number. There are several ways to do this, but the most basic way to assign an item number is to click an item, go to the General tab, and open up the component's properties. In this interface, I can type in any value that I want for the item number, apply the changes, close the window, and that CAD component now has a property of item number, which is now 1. Since this is a property of the component, I'll need to create or update a view to save those changes. In this case, I'm going to update. It also means that the item number can change between steps if I want it to. Now we're not going to see any item number here without having some sort of 2D toolbox item on the screen. So let's put one on. So if I open up my toolbox, and for now I'm just going to use a label just to show you. I'm going to put that on like so, and obviously the default is it's just showing a bit of text. Well, rather than me typing, I'm going to link this label to a property of the bunk. With the item selected, if I go to the General tab and choose Link, I can see that it's linked to the bunk. If I go to the Property tab, I can pick which property to populate the text with. In this case, the item number. As soon as I click Add and Close, you see the label's been updated to reflect that component's item number. Doing it this way is great if you want full control of your numbers. You'll always have exactly what you want, but clearly it could be rather time consuming to assign numbers to each one of these parts, especially if you have 20, 30, 40 of them to do. Instead, if you want some basic numbering applied, then we can set item numbers for several components at once. With the CAD object selected, I can go to General and I can choose Item Numbering. With this interface, I can assign item numbers to components in just one click. I can choose which components to apply to, so I'm going to do just the ones that are visible. I can choose the schema, so where it's numeric or alphabetical. I can choose the structure and I can choose the order. Since we ordered our layout by volume, I'm going to do the same here for the item numbers. As soon as I hit apply, it's given those components the item numbers according to the schema I set. Now we haven't seen any difference in the bunk because that was already set to 1, and that's the options that I chose will have set that to 1 as well. But if I just move this across, you'll see that that's now got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you can be really quick to just quickly throw in a load of item numbers for you. As a little tip, rather than me placing on labels and linking them constantly and having to do that in this case 6 times, if I'd saved a toolbox item with a link already in it into our toolbox, then every time I add that, it'll automatically pick up the linked property. And actually, the balloon that comes in the default toolbox automatically links to the item number. So let's use this to show you how to very quickly throw on toolbox items for everything that we have on our screen. If I pre-select the objects, go to my toolbox and choose balloon, rather than attaching one to each one, which would work, what I'll do instead is click the message on the property bar. That will auto place our balloons for us. Once I'm happy with that, I can either right click or tick the tick to accept. And what that's done is placed a balloon such that its leader is on the origin of each of the components, and obviously it's just positioned them where it can. If I want to tidy this up a bit, I can still drag them about, put them exactly where I want. Maybe select a few at a time, and on the transform tab I can start to arrange them a bit nicer. So you can see really quickly we can not only give everything item numbers, we can give everything a balloon as well. Finally, I may want to add a parts list to my step. These are found in the toolbox, and unlike other toolbox items which go straight into placement, when I choose a parts list, it will come up and allow me to configure it. The preview will show a few rows so we can see what we're going to expect. We can choose which parts are included in the parts list, its structure, and whether the quantity is just what's visible or whether it's getting it from the whole assembly. If we hadn't assigned item numbers before, we can click here to bring up the item numbering interface. When I click create table, I can then place it where I want and resize it to look exactly how I want it to be. A nice feature, if I'm in view mode or if I'm viewing this on instructions.online, when someone hovers over the parts list, it'll actually highlight the components so someone can see what they're relating to. So you can see giving components item numbers is quite flexible. If the auto scheme doesn't quite do it for you, then using the manual method that I showed first will always mean you'll be able to get exactly what you want. Okay, hopefully you found this video useful. If you have any questions, head over to our forum, and you can find us on all the usual social media sites.